And as you can see, I'm sitting here in the dark with compliments of Eskom load shedding, but I'm getting used to it and we can do nothing about it. There's a lot of stories about what is happening there, but not in this one. This is another what a fuck moment, and this one, the title is The Ukraine Shithole. The things that are coming out now in the Ukraine is very disturbing. Earlier this evening I sat and I listened to a debate with 6 very knowledgeable analysts, and it is scary to listen to those guys, listen to what they tell you, and you start getting perspective on certain things. That Ukraine is literally a shithole. And I have said it many times in my Skidmarks. I cannot understand what is actually going on there. Why is it that the West was willing to basically bankrupt themselves, to bankroll the thing, and to literally disarm themselves? And now they've got major problems. The media will spin it, and if you want to believe it, then you can believe it. The reality is, the West is running out of weapons and is running out of ammunition. And the biggest problem for the West is the fact that the West allowed the greenies to deindustrialize them. And today, they're sitting in the unfortunate situation that they don't have the capacity to really fight a war, because they cannot make the heavy armaments fast enough, and they cannot produce ammunition fast enough. And that is the reality of what's going on there. But those crazy bliksems sitting there in the shithouse is stoking the fires, and the American public support it and allow them to do it, and the same for the EU. The sanctions against Russia is basically destroyed the European economy. But Ursula von der Crazy and her cabal, they are merely carrying on. What is the biggest issue? They, personally, will never feel the consequences of their stupidity. It is the citizens of the European Union that is going to pay for it. But then it is also true, it's the citizens of the EU that allowed them to get out of hand. And look at that shit in France today. That is going to happen in every European city. Except it will not happen in Hungary and it won't happen in Poland, because Hungary and Poland didn't take in those barbarians that the woke libtards welcomed into their country. Now let's start this off in the Ukraine with this disturbing thing. Ukraine Security Services raid the Ukrainian Orthodox monastery in Sumy region. The SBU is reportedly conducting so-called counterintelligence activities at the Ukrainian Orthodox monastery of the Nativity of the Virgin in the Sumy region. And I've had a scrap on Twitter with a guy that is trying to tell me that this is not serious because it's a Russian church. What the fuck is that? How stupid is that? I have seen videos on Telegram, on the Ukrainian channels, of mothers crying because they can't get their sons buried due to the fact that the SBU won't allow the priest to do the funeral. I have seen videos of Ukrainian soldiers saying that they are there in the Donbass fighting for their lives, but they cannot visit a church to pray. And you want to tell me that Ukraine is worth sacrificing everything of the West? You're out of your mind. And the following image, there's no text with it, just an image, tells a story. And who can forget the famous words, 10% for the big guy. Well, there you can see it in action. Then we get this from Zebra Risk Management. The Global Thinker posted, if Ukraine loses the war, the US is beyond finished as a geopolitical player for decades. And with that, automatically NATO and the EU going down as well. Could be worst gamble ever, going all in and betting on Ukraine to defeat Russia. That is a lot of truth. And then the Zebra Risk Management responded, if Zelensky is assassinated, the war is over. Let that sink in. The new Ukrainian leadership will negotiate with Putin to end the war, and there will be no control over donated weapons and billions of dollars. Russia will retain the 4 territories it declared autonomous. NATO is dead. And I agree with him, but I'm going to put a question mark over that 4 territories. I think the Russians have got 2 more, at least 2 more, that they're going to take. And the next image is a satellite picture of the famous Snake Island. Now, there is a guy that follows my channel, and he is a vehement supporter of the Nazis in the Ukraine, and he has been quite aggressive towards me in a few instances. He's also the guy that gives my videos a thumb down, and if that makes him happy, I can do nothing about it. The only thing I can do is bring you the news and tell you the stories, and you make your own mind up. I've said it many times. I show you stuff, MSM show you stuff, all you need to do is think about all this stuff and make your own mind. Now, 2-3 days ago, he made a hell of a story to me about Ukraine and Snake Island, and with Snake Island they can control the Black Sea. The reality is, first of all, look at that thing. It's a rock in the sea, flat. There's nothing on it. And it is actually a very small little rock in the sea. And the Russians took it right in the beginning, but I think it was more for PR, and then we had all those famous Snake Island stories of that Snake Island soldiers that were supposed to tell the Russian military to go and get fucked and all of that, which all turned out to be bullshit. And then the Russians left the island, and the Ukrainians came back to the island, and the Russians nailed the landing crews with missiles, and the Ukrainians lost 2 or 3 boats, and they lost a lot of people, and that was the story. And then this oak, my supporter, comes out and makes a big story with Snake Island. Ukraine can control the Black Sea. I wonder if he understands that one decent missile and there's no more rock in the sea. But that is what you do when you are uninformed. You make your name arse and you don't realize it. But look at that thing, look at that little island, flat rock on the sea. There's nothing there, it's flat. There's nothing, there's nowhere to hide. I just thought I'll put that in. And then we get to this map. And if you look at this map, you must look carefully. Ukraine is there. It's not difficult to see the Ukraine, but if you look at that border line that goes through the Poland text, that is the Ukraine border. And on the other side, the Russia, roughly there. You go the line up there, that's roughly what's left of Ukraine. And this was a map that was discussed in a debate around the role of Poland. This guy is of the opinion that Poland is going to take the west of Ukraine. Romania is going to take that 2 little pieces there, and Russia is going to take the rest, and all that will be left is that piece with the Ukraine flag on. around Kiev, that is in the central Ukraine. I think this is maybe a little bit overstated, but that Poland has got plans for the West is clear. And all we can hope for is that there is back channels between Russia and Poland about that move. Because if the Polish soldiers go into the west of Ukraine without the blessing of the Russians, they're going to die. And this one, I had to include this for the Nazi lovers that follow the channel. Ukrainian tanks with the Nazi Balkenkreuz leaving the Vistek machine plant in Bakhmut. Now look on that tank, those are Nazi signs. And if you don't think it is Nazi signs, then you really need to go and do some investigation. And there it is, clear. This is what's going on in the Ukraine. And the West supports it. And America allowed that Nazi to sit in their House of Representatives and even fly the Ukraine flag in the American House of Representatives. What shit is that? And then we get to this. Giant sums of money disappears into a black hole of Ukraine. Countries that support Ukraine have provided at least 108 billion euros in military and financial or humanitarian aid as of November 20, according to the latest figures released by the Kiel Institute for the World Economy. Think about that. Think what that money could have done to the lives of the people that are struggling to feed themselves, that are struggling to keep warm in the EU, the UK, and America. And then there's this. Ukraine new Nazis. Ukrainian man left security camera switched on in his house and captured Ukrainian troops marauding and robbing his house in broad daylight. His neighbors, look at this bro, they just loaded everything from your garage into their truck and left. Ukrainian troops are criminal gangs who are notorious for robbing their own civilians and then blaming Russians for stealing toilets. Poor civilians are so terrorized by the impunity of these armed Nazis, they are afraid to even speak up for outright crimes committed right in front of their faces. And that is the reality. And I have seen other videos of what they are doing in other regions. And in Kherson, they have raided so many businesses and private houses. That's what they do. But that is what the West is supporting. Nazi criminals. And then there was this, and a lot of people in the media is talking about it. Now, just a little bit of background. In Russia, there is a private military group, and they are called Wagner. So the Americans has put up something similar, and it has been baptized Mozart. In this interview with Max Blumenthal, this guy made a few hairy statements. I'm just going to read this piece. After months in the Ukraine training soldiers, retired Colonel Andrew Milburn of the Mozart Group mercenary firm gets sourced on camera and spills the beans. Ukraine is a corrupt, fucked up society run by fucked up people. Ukrainian soldiers kill dudes who surrendered and commit atrocities. And that, there you have it. But the MSM will deny it, and they will say the guy was drunk. But there is an old saying that says, in vino veritas. In the wine lies the truth. And this is what we've seen here. It's a fairly long interview, And he has made a few other comments, and he talked about the fact that what the Ukrainians are doing there is not covered by the Geneva Convention and is prohibited by many international conventions. But the media will not talk about it. And then we have this rabid dog with one of his speeches. Ukraine gave up her brother, and now her father is being expelled. Zelensky openly announced preparations to ban canonical orthodoxy. The president of Ukraine has played yet another cruel joke by depriving his citizens of their right to freedom of religion. The Ukrainian Nazi regime has taken away people's minds, destroyed their homes, killed their loved ones, deprived them of their well-being, and plunged them into chaos and darkness. It would seem that this is as far as it goes. No, this is not. Now the criminal government has decided to forbid God. God will come to this sinful land again, hand in hand with a Russian soldier. Think about this next time you want to fly a Ukraine flag. And then you have this. Ukrainian authorities destroy monument to the famous Russian poet. Chernobyl authorities have stated the bust to Alexander Pushkin will be warehoused in the city. It's the latest memorial to famous Russian poet to be removed in Ukraine. And I also saw that they have removed that statue in Odessa of Catherine the Great. These Ukrainians are barbarians. They are barbarians, no matter how you look at it. And then we get this disturbing information. The Kiev Independent. Demography Institute forecast catastrophic birth rate drop in Ukraine in 2023. In 2023, Ukraine will face a catastrophic fall in the birth rate, and there are risks that by 2030, the country's population will decrease to less than 35 million, including Crimea, Donbass people staying abroad, etc., according to Ella Libanova, director of the Putka Institute for Demography and Social Studies. As the war continues, we are losing people through excess mortality. Libanova said that the Russia-Ukraine war influences demographics through casualties, migration and worsening life conditions caused by continuous attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure that could prevent refugees from coming back to Ukraine from abroad. The longer people stay abroad, the more they adapt and could want to stay there forever, she said. This is sobering information. This is something that you should really think about. Ukraine is going to disappear. And that disappearance has been orchestrated by the newcons in the shithouse. Never forget that. So if Ukraine disappears and is destroyed, who would we thank? The newcons in the shithouse. And on that note, please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.